Good win over Delaware, and I really like the way we started the game. You always worry about that letdown after the big win over Duke, but I thought the game started out well. Our defense really played physical, controlled the line of scrimmage. We got them in 3rd and longs, which is obviously a favorable down, and it was good to see the offense finally get off to a fast start. And I like right now how we're running the football. And then I think in the second half we had a lot more balance. Once John got in there in the second half, he looked a lot more comfortable, started setting his feet. And it was good to see us get more guys involved in the perimeter. I think every one of our top 6 receivers caught a pass. And, again, overall it was a very productive day. The one negative, obviously, were the turnovers that led to 14 points. And I've never seen a stat line that you give up over 100 yards and 21 points. So the game was probably more competitive score-wise than it should have been, but that's our fault. We got to take care of the football, and I told our team that turnovers inside the 20 will usually get you beat, and the fact that you had 2 of them, you can win the football game. We're very fortunate. So moving forward, we go back on the road and play an undefeated Indiana team. Indiana is a much improved program. Coach Wilson is now in his 6th year and has really done a good job recruiting, developing his program. He had them in their first bowl game a year ago. I think that was their first bowl since '07. It's a very challenging game for us for a lot of reasons. I think number one, the style of offense they run, the tempo. They have some legitimate big-time offensive linemen. The guard, Feeney, might be the best O-lineman we see all year. He's a first-team All-American. He'll be probably making quite a bit of money a year from now. And, just overall, their offensive line is, they had a guy drafted a year ago. The right guard and the right tackle are probably all Big Ten caliber players. And it's a position they appear not to rebuild but to reload. The running back, Redding, they had Jordan a year ago, and he's now in the NFL, I believe, and Redding rushed for 1,000 yards, and Indiana has produced a string of running backs, and he is a big-time player. The quarterback, Lagau, I think is how you pronounce his name, is a junior college transfer. Indiana probably has averaged the biggest quarterback in college football the last 2 years. He's 6'6", 237 pounds, and he can throw it. And they've got really good receivers. They've got good depth. They lost a really good receiver, but they have a lot of good depth at the position. And they have been one of the best offenses in the Big Ten the last 3 or 4 years. On defense, they have a new defensive coordinator they hired from South Florida. He has changed their defensive scheme, very aggressive. The safeties are very involved in run support. They're stout up front. They're physical. Their inside guys are like 285 and 305. So getting movement will be a challenge. And I really like their linebackers. They're very active. They're physical, and they're good in the secondary. So I think they're a program that has now learned how to win last year, and it's continued this year. And again, we're playing a Power 5 team on the road. And this will be a really good challenge for our football team. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Dave, you guys are 3-0. How do you temper enthusiasm without squashing it? How do you keep them from being overconfident without totally being a buzzkill?
You focus on what's next. That we talk about wanting to be 1-0 every week. And what happened has happened, and we're proud of what they've done. But the reward for winning a game is that now the next game has significance. And it's been a long time here since we've played games of meaning in October and November. And we want to play games that mean something in October and November. And for that to happen, we need to continue to play well. And I think our players are at a point that they're enjoying it, but they also know why they're achieving it. And it is work ethic, and it is preparation. And they know if they stop doing that we won't be successful. So we're very, again, you have to acknowledge what they're doing well, because we're doing a lot of really good things. And, we're playing well, and we're doing a lot of the things that we wanted to do. But, teams get better or they get worse. And we are having success because of the commitment level and the work ethic and the practice habits and the preparation. If we stop doing those things, there will be a reason it stops.
It's got to be hard, though, even for you, though, because you work hard, they work hard, and there's got to be a piece of you, though, that wants to say, man, I really want to enjoy this for a little bit longer.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of what we do. I mean, there's a game the next week, and the time to enjoy it is when the season's over. And then I'll enjoy it for 24 hours, and we'll start recruiting. So, it's just, it's, if you're looking in the rearview mirror, you're not moving forward, and I mean, again, that's the feeling in the locker room after a game, whether it was Duke or Delaware or even Tulane, that's a great feeling. And the feeling Sunday around the office building is a great feeling. And then when that's done, you start watching the next opponent, and we are who we are, and we do what we do. And we have a process, and we got to continue with that process.
I saw the video after the Duke win in the locker room, and that was captivating. It was one of those things where I could feel what you were feeling. Where does it rank on your list of post-game celebrations, I guess?
Oh, it was a good one. Not as good as winning a championship, and that's our ultimate goal. So, but that to finally win an in-state rivalry game against our yearly crossover opponent. I mean, we made a big deal about the game before the game, and then when you do what you set out to do, you have to enjoy it. And in that moment, it's pure elation. I mean, that's the nature of what we do, is there's no middle ground. At the end of the game, that you're either here or you're here. There's no middle ground at all. And when they've worked hard and they've executed and they've done what they needed to do, you have to let them enjoy it. And we enjoyed that Duke locker room just like we enjoyed the Delaware locker room. But then it's cliche-ish, but it's true. It's the 24-hour rule that, whether you win or lose, you put it behind you and you move forward, and you try to build on it, because there are good things to build on, and we got to make sure that we keep doing those things and that we create winning habits in our program.
How much did you guys learn off of the matchup with Indiana last year, and how physical of a game that was, and what you're taking from that game to prepare them for this road visit?
Well, what we take from that game is they came down here last year and they beat us. And that the tempo of their offense is difficult to defend. It's difficult to prepare for. They are a very, very physical offensive line. I mean, they knock people off the ball, and they move the ball against everybody in the Big Ten. It's a well thought out offensive scheme. Coach Wilson's background is as an O-line coach, and you can tell how well coached that unit is. And they've developed players there. The running back is legit now. He can play. I mean, he could play anywhere, and I think he'll be playing on Sundays. And they got a quarterback that can swing it, and receivers that we had trouble covering a year ago. So they're a good football team. And last year the score looked closer than the game really was. Last year the final score was 31-24, but it was like 31-10, and then we scored 2 touchdowns late. So, it was a little bit misleading. They took it to us pretty good a year ago.
What do you take just out of the challenge of the physicality that they bring, though, especially with that style of play they do in the Big Ten? One of your players talked about how much of a challenge it will be for them just from a physical sense.
Yeah, I mean, and we pride on ourselves on becoming a physical team. So this is, this is another step up for us. And I think our guys are excited about the challenge. I think when you're winning, the locker room's good, practice is fun. You look forward to the next game. But, to a man in our locker room, our players can tell you that they think Indiana's a good football team. I mean, I really thought last year, Indiana offensively was certainly one of the very, very best offense that we faced the whole season. And look at it. They had an NFL quarterback that's with the Redskins, an NFL tailback, an NFL left tackle. They have really good players. And again, good players, a well thought out scheme, they're well coached, and they score points every year against good people.
You mentioned you pride yourself on being a physical mean, this year, clearly you're blocking a lot better than you're tackling. So when you do those two things, you block and you tackle, your turnover ratio is even. You're making too many penalties. There's certain things about that aren't really going well on your team that you could use some
Well,
improvement.
right now, I think we're the second least penalized team in the ACC.
But the other day you had twice as many, right?
We had a few yesterday, but one of them was, we had those two bad pass interference stands.
Yeah,
Those were late in the game that we had guys grabbing guys that they shouldn't, but I certainly feel right now, I think a positive of our team is how little penalized we've been.
Okay, then my premise may be off base. I can accept that, but just the fact, what a difference it makes when the football team actually blocks and tackles.
Yeah, when you control the line of scrimmage, and I've said this a lot of times before in this room, Dan, that it's if you're not good up front, there's nothing else you do that really matters.
Yeah, that's it.
That if you can't block, that it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is or your backs are or your receivers are, because it never even gets to those matchups. And so I think what's happening this year now is, our offensive line is playing better and we're blocking people. And I always want to be a balanced offense. Who thought our concern would be balanced now that we're not throwing it? Because for 2 years, probably 80% of our offense came from throwing it, and we really struggled to run the football. And now that we're protecting better, we got to start making more plays on the perimeter in the pass game. Yeah, and so, I think the Duke game was obviously very, very heavy run. And then, last week in the first half, we were not good throwing it. And that's why in the second half, we really wanted to spread it out a little bit more and get the perimeter going, because we knew that was something that we had to work on. And so, not only was a positive takeaway last week that we ran the ball for over 300 yards, but in the second half, I thought we were very efficient throwing it. And, like I said, John, I thought answered the bell in the second half, and he looked really uncomfortable in the first half, especially for a guy that's played so much. But then in the second half, he settled down and kind of knew it was his game. But to answer your question even further, Dan, I just think I agree with you on the turnovers. I was really sloppy.
Yeah.
The pick was a bad pick, and the fumble was just an awful, awful fumble. You're coming out, it's 3rd and 1. You got to finish the play with the football and hand it to the official. And if you noticed, we did not give him another carry the rest of the game. So, that's a big deal, that if you don't take care of the football, and it's nice at running back to have options so you can do that.
And I know it's only 3 games, but you're so excited about your receiving core. How do you see the progress and the challenge this week? When you say that Indiana pressures you, a lot of man coverage on the outside?
Not so much man coverage. They play a lot of what we call, cover 4, that
Okay.
the safeties are really, really involved in the run fits, that their safeties are aggressive. They get them very involved with the run. At times, they become really a 7 and an 8-man box against spread sets, because the safeties are so active. So, it's to run the ball against them, that your backs are going to have to make people miss, and you're going to have to make some plays on the perimeter.
And evaluate your wide receiver core at this point.
Yeah, and I think they're improving. Again, to me, it was really positive last week that every one of those 6 guys made a play. Bachman had the touchdown. Stephen Claude had a really nice catch that he flipped his hands and got north and south right away. It was great to see Scotty Washington get a catch. Cortez made a play. Tabari made a great 3rd down conversion right before the half that led to a touchdown. Chucky Wade made a really nice play on a bubble screen and made a guy miss. And that, to me, was, that was really encouraging, that, we talk about our depth and how improved the receiver core is. Well, we finally had a game that all 6 of them made a play. And I'm hoping, like with Scotty, that a play like that now gets him going, or a play like that to Alex Bachman, that he ran a perfectly executed tight red zone route. And John, I thought that was his best play of the game, that he had pressure, he stepped up, and he threw an absolute laser on the front number. And those were really, really positive plays from the game, above obviously what we did running the football. And, the other good thing was, last year we used to call runs on 3rd down so we wouldn't get sacked. Now we're calling runs on 3rd down to get first downs. Now, how many times did we run the ball on 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 5 because we had a look, we felt we could run it, and then we executed the run and made the first down. So those were very, very positives. But again, I think clearly, the defense we play this week is going to be a lot more challenging just because of what they do and the nature of how physical they are.
Now, in reference to that, from the tape I saw against Ball State, it looks like Indiana brings a variety of blitz packages. And I would say your offensive line kind of struggled with the blitz early on against Delaware. How will they be able to handle those different looks?
Well, I think Delaware was not a team that pressured a lot, and then suddenly when John got in there, they did. And then in the second half, we handled the blitzes much better. And I think part of that was game plan, that we anticipated being defended a certain way with Kendall. And then when John went in there, they changed what they did. And we got to halftime and made some adjustments, and it worked out. But you're right, Indiana, there's multiple people that come, and they do a really nice job disguising things. They're very disciplined in their disguises. A lot of times against blitz, there's people that tip it off or give it away, and they don't do that. So it's a challenge not only in protections, but it's a challenge running the football. And then they have a lot of line movements and twists, and so they're physical, and so you got to block guys that are 300 pounds and 285, and they're trying to go right through you. And then when you mix it up with a team that's moving, whether it's the blitz game or twisting in the blitz game, they do a lot of good things. It's very well thought out.
I know it's early in the practice week, but do you see a difference in John's approach so far, knowing that he's most likely going to?
No, John's approach has always been great. John is as even-tempered and perfect demeanor. And even last week when John was not the starter, you did not see any different approach from him. That's really one of his strengths, that he's steady in the boat now. And, I'm sure there's a part of him that knows, hey, it's my game. He can throw 3 picks, and he knows he's staying in there. He's too competitive to. But John is. John's one of those do-right guys that was raised right, and his family did a great job, and he's even-tempered, and he's all about the team. And even last week, I really praised him in the locker room, because I've seen a lot of times that you tell the guy that's been starting he's not starting, and it just goes right down, and he doesn't prepare. And John was no different in practice, no different in meetings. Whatever he was feeling internally, he did not share that with the team, and he prepared, and when his number was called, he was ready to go.
You mentioned Kevin Wilson. This is his 6th year at Indiana. Do you see any similarities to what he's built there to what you want to do, or maybe some aspects of his program that you would like to emulate?
Well, the aspect of it is, I would like us to be a physical team. I want to have a good offensive line and want to be a team that can consistently run the football and play good defense. And, I just think the way their football team looks, that these guys are guys with big necks and big chests and big arms, and, I'm sure they'll have big legs. They look, when as a coach, when a team comes out of the locker room, you always look at them. And I remember Indiana last year seeing, man, they got some good-looking dudes.
I want one of those.
They have, it's whatever, eating a lot of, corn-fed beef or whatever it is. But those guys they were a good-looking football team. They were well-developed, and they looked like a big-time team. And they played like it last year.
But they kind of started. He took over a troubled program, and now they're going to bowl games, and they're doing the things you're aspiring to do. So that's got to give you a little bit of confidence too.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're not there yet, though. There's a lot of programs that you can look to, and I've done that throughout my career. Is you model places that look like you and what you're trying to build, and whether it was Northwestern in the early to mid '90s, or Stanford, or a great example is what Jim Grobe did at Wake Forest. Those are all models of how to win at places like this. So, I believe we're getting better. I don't think we've turned the corner yet, and I still feel like we have a lot of work to do in every aspect of our program. But I do think we are making improvements, and we're making a jump, and we want to keep like I said, I felt we made a jump last year, but the record didn't reflect it. And we want to make a jump this year that the record does reflect it.
I mean, I'm gonna ask you this, and I know probably what you're gonna say, I should write it down and hand it to you, is what you're gonna say. You're sitting on 99 career wins, this would be number 100. Would that be as special as anything else, or until number 101 is probably what you're gonna tell me?
Well, I guess answer the question.
Are you excited about the possibility of winning 100 games in your career?
I'm excited about the chance of going 1-0 this week with Wake Forest. You know, you just, and again, it's not, I think those are things, like I said, when the year's over, you know, I've been very fortunate to be a head coach for a long time, and I was very fortunate at a very young age. An athletic director trusted me and gave me a chance to be a head coach, and I've never, ever taken the job for granted. I'm very lucky to be able to do this for a living and to be a head coach as long as I have. But I think something like that, it makes you reflect back on all the different players and all the different coaches you've worked with and all the experiences you've been blessed to have. But, you know, if it happens, will I enjoy it for a little bit? Yeah, but, you know, that's one I'll save for the end of the year.
24 hours.
24 hours, and then, you know, hopefully the goal is to get 101.
I know you've been confident all along in John Wolford, you know, all he's done, but you come off the Duke game, Dave, and you lose Kendall, who had been so good against you. Then you lose Cade, those were the two guys that were really the big sparks. And did you wonder about emotionally what would happen to your team? And did that show a certain maturity on the part of your team to be able to plug in new guys?
Yeah, like I said, our team believes in John too. And I think our team believes in Tyler Bell and Matt Colburn and Rocky Reed, and that's why you recruit.
All right.
So, I mean, injuries are part of football, and they're going to happen, and you hate it when they happen. And, you know, is there, you know, a little frustration of, okay, you finally made a decision of naming a quarterback and a quarter into it, you know, but that's where you gotta, like, you know, I've said all year that at some point I can't imagine, we've never had those two both healthy for the last year. And so that's why even last week in practice, we really split reps. You know, that we've always felt we have to get them both ready. And thank goodness we have. You know, so, and when John went in there, I mean, you know, he was good enough to be our starting quarterback to start the season. And I think the players believe in him and know how hard he works at it. And, you know, they're going to play for him just like they play for Kendall.
Let me ask you the stupidest question at press conference. What are the differences does Duke Edgefor make on your defense when you have him on the field versus not having him on the field?
He's a difference maker, Dan. He is when we break down another team's defense, we always say on the defensive line, who's poison?
Yeah.
Who's the person over there that can just destroy everything you're trying to do? And I have a hard time imagining when other people don't watch Duke that they say that 53 is poison. You know, that people have to have an answer for him in terms of protection, pass rush. You know, he's just a guy that gets better and better, it seems, every week. And he's a really good player. And, you know, Dan, I look back at our camp, and I think, you know, maybe part of the reason our offensive line developed confidence is they didn't have to block him all camp. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he missed all camp. And so I think our offensive line developed some confidence that maybe if he had been healthy, so you always got to look on the bright side of things.
Besides Kendall, obviously, and Mickey Campbell, how did you come out physically from that game?
Well, those are the two, and I think we're getting a lot of guys back. Justin Haran practiced today, which was great to see. Alante Bateman practiced today. Jabari Williams practiced today. So obviously Kendall and Cam are two really big losses, but we're getting a lot of other good players back. So, you know, again, it's week 4, and so we get to play a team coming off a bye week again, which seems like it's a regular event at Wake Forest, next 2 weeks in a row.
Kemp won't play with you.
No, Kemp will not play.
What about Glenn? Glenn's
I don't know, Dan. It's yeah, it's you know, he didn't pull it. It's just a matter of how he feels.
okay.
So I'm hoping we have him, but we're certainly prepared to play without him.
The players are talking about the mood on campus being different. Are you sensing that? You're riding a wave or something? You have
Well, I tell you what, when all the students rolled the quad after the Duke game, that was really neat for our players. That, I think, made those guys feel good. And, they've worked very hard for 2 years, and when things didn't go well, they kept working hard. So, there's a part of them that you want them to enjoy that, and if people are friendlier to them and, more people smile at them and shake their hand, I think that's all a good thing, but it just all goes back to, okay, why is this happening? It's happening because you guys have worked hard and you're preparing, and don't change what you're doing. So it's enjoy the moment, but don't get lost in it.